This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Gold. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike. Here's what we have for you from Friday. Clayton Kershaw, unbelievable. The Mets, they're not. Are things going to work out for Ohio State's Braxton Miller, switching to wide receiver? We talked to Buster Olney, do a little love it or shove it. Joey Galloway checks in on the Braxton Miller situation. And the actor Jake Gyllenhaal joins us as well.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Yeah, back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio, and on your TV on ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests will appear on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline today, except for the one who's going to be in our studio, and I have a feeling he's not going to be alone. My wife may show up today. Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be here today. His new movie looks awesome. They sent it to me. I meant to watch it. I never got a chance to.
It does look great.
I will see it this weekend for sure.
It does look great. You hear his workout regimen getting ready for this. He looks fantastic.
Dude is yoked.
Unbelievable. And you're right. And not only your wife, but this is one of those days when we have X amount of people in this room early in the morning, and later it gets a little more, but it'll be triple this size. All of a sudden, people will just kind of wander in. Oh, we haven't seen the Mike and Mike set in a while. There's Jake Gyllenhaal. Wow, didn't know that was happening.
Forgot you were here.
Yeah, can we take a picture?
I just wanted to see the Golic butt photo bobblehead one more time in person. So Jake will be here, a terrific actor, obviously. Yeah. Again, the movie looks really good, sports film. We talk about sports movies all the time, and we are going to Twitter view him. So we're going to have Jake Gyllenhaal in here for a half hour. So here's the way we're going to do it. We're basically going to split the interview up into two pieces. We'll talk to him for 15 minutes, right, and then you'll talk to him for 15 minutes. So is it a hashtag Ask Jake, Nick Nate? Is that what our hashtag is? We lost Nick Nate.
That's a good one. Let's just go with it.
We're going to go with that.
Ask Jake.
And if he already gave one, then I'm changing it. I'm making a change. So the hashtag is Ask Jake. Tweet them at us using the hashtag Ask Jake. Any questions you would like to ask actor Jake Gyllenhaal, and so we'll Twitter view him for half of the time that we have with him. We'll talk to him. You'll talk to him. It should be great fun.
Look forward to that, yeah.
Let's start with Clayton Kershaw. You know, a lot of the narrative this year has been about the fall-off of Clayton Kershaw, and they still don't have the sensational winning percentage in the games in which he has started. And he has. And listen, I don't want to pile on this. It's become such an extremely easy joke to make, this notion that throwing a perfect game against the Mets, should it actually count?
Right.
If you saw who they had in their lineup yesterday, between injuries and just being just the circumstances of that team as they are, all their fans know what I'm talking about. It is what it is. You look at Clayton Kershaw, he now becomes the first pitcher since 1900 to have 3 straight starts, allowing no runs and striking out at least 10 without walking a batter. He's done it in 3 consecutive starts. Cy Young did it in 2 consecutive starts in 1905. Cy Young did it in 2 consecutive starts. He's putting up numbers we haven't seen since Cy Young, or even seen since Cy Young. So you don't do that just because you're facing the Mets. You don't do that just because of the opposition that you're facing. You do it because you're dealing. And right now, Clayton Kershaw is dealing.
Well, he is. But you know what the question will arise? We've seen him. Maybe he's setting some new standards even for himself. But we've seen him pitch great in the regular season, haven't we? We've seen this before. The Dodgers aren't about this anymore. The Dodgers are about the postseason, which is, you wonder why, or you wonder if they're still going to get some more pitching help before the trade deadline is up. Because after Greinke and after Kershaw, what do they have and what do they want going forward? So that's unfortunately where Kershaw is. We read these numbers, we're amazed by his pitching, but then you go to the postseason and all we're talking about is Madison Bumgarner and them winning the World Series. The Dodgers want to be talked about winning the World Series with great pitching behind their great pitchers, and that's what they haven't gotten yet with Clayton Kershaw. So in kind of an unfair, is it unfair or fair when you look at it that way? While we read these great numbers and say what a great start he had and what a great years he's had in the regular season, for this team, it's about the postseason and getting it done there.
Kershaw and Greinke, it reminds you of the old, and the older baseball fans will know it, are those who study the history of the game, because obviously it's way before even my time. But the old spawn and Sane and then pray for rain is right. What you would have with the Dodgers, is Greinke and Kershaw. Kershaw talking about his scoreless inning streak. By the way, he has struck out 45 batters since the last time he walked one. Here's Kershaw.
I'm trying to copy Zach for sure, the way he's throwing. You know, it's been really fun to watch. So just trying not to lower the bar at all.
What do we mean by copy Zach? Kershaw has now thrown 29 consecutive scoreless innings. Zach Greinke has thrown 43 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings. In the expansion era, Greinke and Kershaw are the only pair of teammates to have simultaneous streaks of at least 25 consecutive scoreless innings as starters, according to Elias. Now, Greinke's streak is on hold. He's missing a start, or at least his spot in the rotation is being shuffled because he and his wife are about to have their first child. So congratulations, first and foremost, to him.
Exactly.
But it will be interesting to see. Greinke becomes a free agent. He can opt out of his deal and will at the age of 31 at the end of this year and take what was an extraordinary contract and make it even more extraordinary.
The deal was $147 million. He makes $24.5 million, and he's going to opt out and get more. What a sport!
It is. Listen, I told you before.
Incredible.
You raised two extraordinarily athletic boys, and they went and played football.
Yeah.
You, my friend, should be imprisoned. I mean, that's ridiculous. to become a football player in this day and age, if you have the option, as you said yourself, if you can dribble a basketball without having it go off your foot. Enes Kanter is making $10 million a year, right? I mean, the baseball players are opting out of $147 million contracts. Football players are getting ready for two-a-days.
Why do you got to keep bringing that up to me?
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Talk about bad parenting.
It's the most popular sport, but it's by far the least attractive to play.
And the most damage on your body.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson is getting paid $80 million. Not Mr. October.
No. Isn't that what the John Wall quote? I'm getting paid the same as Reggie Jackson.
Yeah. And not the right Reggie Jackson.
Not the right one.
And not that there's anything wrong with the current Reggie Jackson.
No.
Frankly, at this point financially, you could buy and sell the old Reggie Jackson.
That's exactly right.
But the point goes back to where it was. And as far as the Mets are concerned, I mean, you see, like, these fans started this GoFundMe site. It really is a very difficult situation. The thing with the Mets is they used to spend money. I mean, back in the day when Steve Phillips worked here, how much did we joke around with him about all the money that he spent on Mo Vaughn and a variety of pitchers and all that kind of stuff? It's not like they were unwilling to spend money. And now they are obviously unwilling to spend money. And you don't have to be a genius to figure out what has happened in the interim. So it's a very, very difficult situation. It has to be excruciating. Their offense is worse than the 1962 Mets. It is worse than the Mets in 62.
And they're sitting there 3 out of the division and 3 out of the wild card. But I don't think you sit there and you say, what kind of chance do they have with the hitting they have?
None.
That's exactly right.
They will finish under 500.
Which makes it even more damning for certainly the players, but the fans who are seeing this team right near the top of the division with what many would think no chance to get there.
Exceptional young starting pitching. And you would think they should have all the financial flexibility in the world to go out and make a deal. Right now, there is no team in baseball that would benefit more by making significant deals before next Friday than the New York Mets.
Right.
Talk about any other team you want. The Dodgers could use an arm. Sure, they could. The Cubs could use this and that. Sure, they could. Lots of teams could. The Mets have as good a starting pitching as you can possibly have, and they are putting out a triple-A offense. They are putting a lineup on the field. Last night, there are 4 and 5 hitters. I don't think either of them are hitting 200.
They're hitting 180, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a major league team. And they're talking about getting David Wright back in 3 weeks. Now, Aramis Ramirez, how about this story? 12 years to the day that he got traded away from Pittsburgh. He gets traded back to Pittsburgh yesterday to finish his career there. He has said this is going to be his last year, and he'll take a shot at trying to be, one more bat that helps put them over the top. And is Aramis Ramirez a difference maker at this point? Well, on some level, yes. But we don't have to just look at – here's the way I think you have to look at baseball right now. If you're a team looking to make a deal, because Barry Bonds isn't available, right? Prince Fielder isn't available. Miguel Cabrera isn't available. I should use players who are active. But anything that makes you better, where it is jam-packed as it is, and you play as many games as they do, is worth doing. It is a difference-making move. You don't have to acquire Miguel Cabrera to substantially upgrade or to at least upgrade your offense, and that makes a difference. And it's just a shame. I hate to see it because I have so many friends who root like crazy for them. We got Bubba down on our board this morning who's flying his flag at half-mast.
Yeah, he's got to be sick. I mean, a team that close to a division or wild card, they're the lowest batting average in the league. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just a joke.
Just horrible. And you're right. To not go out and do something. And you're also right. It's a team that would spend money. It's a team that it's a sport where you can spend the money if you want to spend the money to get what you need.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the point, is that when They had the money, they spent
it.
And now they're not spending it, which suggests to you that all of the reports that you read and the suspicion that you hear is that they don't have it. And that's a baseball problem. It is a significant problem, and one that they continue not to address. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll compare rates for you to get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Mike, the Ohio State quarterback situation seems to be working itself out, and as far as our Joe Shad is concerned, it couldn't be working out better, with Braxton Miller himself telling the world, even if his coach isn't ready to tell them, that he is moving to wide receiver.
This is the best situation for everybody involved. This gives head coach Urban Meyer a tremendous versatile weapon, a guy who can go play receiver, who can go play H-back, who can get involved on special teams. It allows the quarterback competition to be narrowed to Cardale Jones, who of course led Ohio State to a national championship, cannon arm, a load to tackle, and then J.T. Barrett, who you mentioned is probably Ohio State's most complete quarterback.
So there's the situation that you have right now. Braxton Miller telling Sports Illustrated that he is switching to wide receiver and that it essentially was his idea. That right now his shoulder, which he's had 2 surgeries on, including the one, a week before the season started last year, something like that?
During this August camp,
right before the season began, that he's just not ready to be throwing the football regularly, and that this year he's going to, quote, for the most part, be playing H-back and punt return. It's a long process to get back totally to throwing and throwing every day. This is the smarter thing for right now. God blessed me with a lot of talent and different opportunities. I'm going to have fun with that and still score a lot of touchdowns and help the team out and be dominant at that. Now, hold on a minute. Coach Urban Meyer telling the Columbus Dispatch a final decision has not been made. Quote, I haven't made those decisions yet. It's a little bit jumping the gun there. Braxton came to see me. He's been talking to me about it. We've been working at it, but I'm not ready to say exactly how we're going to use him yet. We won't know until practice starts how we can use him and what we can do. He's a great athlete, but he's never caught a pass for us, so we'll know more, and we have plenty of time when practice starts. I'll say 2 things about Braxton Miller. As one who follows the Big Ten closely, again, I'm an alum of a Big Ten university, and as a fallback, I always root when in doubt. I always root for the Big Ten to do well. I love Braxton Miller as a player. I think he is was a great, and I think still could be, depending on the injury to his shoulder, a great college quarterback. Tremendously great college quarterback. I was surprised he didn't transfer during this offseason. But at no point while watching him did I think I was watching an NFL quarterback.
Right.
So if he wants to have an NFL career, much like Tim Tebow, and he's a very different player from Tebow, but in this regard, I think they're kind of similar. Great college quarterbacks who probably don't transition to the NFL game as well as they might in other places. Tebow has always resisted that, and we'll see. Again, he's in camp with the Eagles now, and we wish him well. Braxton Miller is a guy who I think if he wants to have an NFL career, it will be at another position. So I think he's doing exactly the right thing.
I think what's interesting is that we had talked about Ohio State. Wow, what a great problem to have. These 3 quarterbacks. You got if you really look at the situation, J.T. Barrett has not practiced. He didn't practice all spring, and now we hear his ankle is coming along fine and should be ready to go. But Cardale Jones got all the reps in the spring because Braxton Miller still isn't ready to throw. So you had 3 quarterbacks when you're going, wow, just pick one and we should be able to win all our games, to, okay, we got one that hasn't thrown, has had 2 shoulder surgeries. We got one who's a passer and a runner who ran for over 900 yards last year, and Barrett, who is coming off a bad ankle injury. And then we have our big prototypical pocket passer in 6'5", 255, 50-pound Cardale Jones.
He's the only one he's the one who looks like a pro quarterback.
Well,
right? You watch him play and you say, that's a guy who plays on Sundays.
He does, if you want that. We keep talking about how the game's changing.
Except you. You never talk about that.
No, you're right.
You want Cardale Jones.
You're right. I mean, so that's why I'm surprised you said it, because there are guys that are 6'2", 215, like Braxton Miller is, who are playing quarterback.
Yeah, but watch him throw. I'm not talking about his size.
Oh, I understand that. But he ran for, the last time he played, he ran for over 1,000 yards. I mean, he was that thrower.
But you've beaten that into my head now, Mike. You can't run for 1,000 yards at quarterback in the NFL. You're not going to do it. And he's not Russell Wilson.
I agree, and
he's not that kind of fast. He's more powerful.
So this move, let's be completely honest. This move was more about Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller making this decision for himself. And do not get me wrong. I'm not saying this in a bad way. But that's what he's doing. Because that's going forward, if he hasn't even thrown yet, he's behind the 8 ball there, so he's not gonna be the quarterback out of the gate, and he may not be the quarterback there. And then, yes, there are, in this day and age, there are people in your ear all the time, and the people in his ear may be like, dude, gonna have to go to another position. And we'll go through names that have done this before and had success in the league, from quarterback in college to receiver in the pros. It has happened before.
Well, I can give you 2 immediate examples who were teammates on a Super Bowl team and once combined to throw and catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl, Antoine Randall and Hines Ward.
Yeah, Hines Ward, Hines Ward played his last 2 years in college, he played receiver. Yeah. He played one year he played quarterback.
But my point is, he started out as a quarterback, realized he wasn't going to be an NFL quarterback, switched to another position, and is now probably going to wind up at the Hall of Fame.
I'll be honest. I'm not going that far on Hines Ward. He played other positions coming in as well. Antoine Randall played quarterback.
Absolutely.
He played quarterback. I covered him when I was calling games at Indiana and moved. And that's more what Braxton Miller is going to do now that I'll
see you covered him in Indiana and Tapia. I covered him in high school.
Well, see, there you go.
He was a tremendous high school basketball player.
I think this is a fantastic move for Braxton Miller, realizing, as we understand, as we reported and has been reported, it was his idea. And that idea spurned from, you know what? A, I'm not ready to throw. And B, probably not going to be a quarterback in the NFL. And you know what I say? Kudos to you for understanding that right now and making that decision instead of that kind of bullheaded, I'm a quarterback, that's all I'm going to play in the NFL, and then you find yourself not in the NFL because you can't play quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
So this is a great move for him. Now, what he'll do, I have no idea. As Urban Meyer said, outside of sneaking out and having J.T. Barrett throwing passes, he hasn't practiced this position. So that's one thing I want to slow down on as well. To sit there and say, a guy who's never done it can go out and do it better than guys that have done it all their lives, that's asking a lot. He's a great athlete. He is a great athlete, so I do think there's a good chance he could do this. But the smartest thing was making the move, is realizing that now, realizing the quarterback situation isn't going where he wants it to go, and getting a whole year now under his belt, if in fact this happens, to be able to play wide receiver, H-back, whatever he's going to play, and show he can do something else. Now, as you said, Urban Meyer not committing on this, because look what Urban Meyer has all of a sudden. He's got one healthy quarterback. One. In Cardale Jones. J.T. Barrett, all signs are pointing that it's all looking good. What happens if he goes down again, though?
Well, I mean, you can get Braxton Miller
I understand
some work, and then if in an absolute emergency, you put him back at quarterback.
That's my point.
Yeah.
It's exactly where I was going, is that's why Urban Meyer is not just yet saying we're making this position switch. Because he doesn't know what he has a quarterback right now at this point. He knows where J.T. Barrett is in recovery, but J.T. Barrett hasn't practiced. And we all think he'll be ready to go when the bell rings, and I think Barrett's going to be the starter if he's healthy. But when is he healthy enough? You know, and that's what we'll see, and we'll find out once August starts and they start practicing. So all of a sudden wow, what a great problem to have. Well, you know, you got some injury issues there that you need to keep an eye on.
That said, how many teams in the country would say, I'm going to go into this season with Cardale Jones as my quarterback and say, I'll take that. Oh, I'll trade with you.
Are you kidding me?
I don't need any other healthy quarterback.
95% of the teams would. So yeah, they have 3 quarterbacks who could start on just about any team in the country. I grant you that.
Cardale Jones is a guy who has played 3 games and would have been a high pick in the NFL draft last year.
The only problem is 2 of those quarterbacks right now, one on the shelf with a shoulder. That's even worse because you got to throw the ball. And Barrett's a runner as well. He throws well. But he runs. As I said, he ran for over 900 yards. By the way, 2 years ago, Braxton Miller ran for over 1,000 yards. So it's a quarterback problem I think people would love to have, but it's not as great as it looked with the injuries. But I think this move for Braxton Miller is a wise move.
Me too.
To get a year under his belt playing here, and if he looks like a great athlete, it looks like he could really help the team. We'll see if it can transition to the NFL. But right now, and that's part of why he's doing it. Let's be honest here. It's part of why he's doing it, but also of how he can help this team this year, which, in my eyes, their toughest game, I think, is going to be Michigan State when we're down there November 20th. They play Michigan State and Michigan in back-to-back games, but I don't think Michigan's ready to compete with them just yet. Harbaugh, a couple of years, we'll see. But I think they have a great shot to go undefeated again this year.
Absolutely. I think right now they would, if you were, we will do this when we get closer to the season, but if you start picking the 4 teams you think will be standing at the end, it'd be very hard not to say Ohio State is going to be one of them.
Undefeated this year, not like last year, but undefeated this year. I definitely think they can do it.
Undefeated is less significant than being one of the last four. And they figure clearly to be one of those.
Yep.
Other names of guys we mentioned, Antoine Randall, Brad Smith is another one. Who was a college quarterback all the way through and has had a very nice NFL career, doing a variety of sort of a jack-of-all-trades type of guy, a little receiver, excellent special teams. He's made a living in the NFL for a long time.
You know, a 4-year start, was he a starter or 4 years a quarterback? Was he starting quarterback? Josh Cribbs.
Josh Cribbs was a quarterback.
Josh Cribbs.
Yes.
And look what he's done in the NFL. So mostly as a returner, but I mean he's had a heck of a
good
career.
NFL career, absolutely.
Yep.
And that's what Braxton Miller is trying to. I agree with you. If that is one of the, if not the most important reasons he's making this change, it's the best reason.
Yes, it is. And by the way, as we mentioned, Josh Cribbs, Braxton Miller would love to return punts this year as well. So, and let me tell you what. That's a good-sized punt returner.
Yeah. No, he's a terrific player. I mean, he was an outstanding college quarterback. He was the best player in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. And, now he's been displaced at his own position on his own team. But that's okay. It was going to happen a year from now anyway.
Well, let me say this. If he was throwing and didn't have a bad shoulder, I don't know if he would have been displaced. But he's getting ahead of that by not being ready to throw at this point. I think it would have been tough.
No, what I'm saying is it would have happened a year from now anyway. He wasn't going to be an NFL quarterback. A year from now, he wasn't going to be a quarterback anyway.
He'll have to learn another position.
The best thing he could do for himself is to figure out another place he can go right now.
Good move for him, yeah.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Buster Olney's going to jump in here in a second. He sent me a note here that I said to him, listen, you share the stat because it's amazing. So he'll jump in a minute here, but 2 quick things I want to give you first. Again, a reminder, Jake Gyllenhaal in our studio in the final hour of the show today, a little after 9 Eastern time. And we're going to get a half hour with him. And the first 15 minutes will be our interview. The second 15 minutes will be yours. You're going to get to Twitter view, Jake Gyllenhaal. So send us on Twitter your questions for Jake. Use the hashtag AskJake. And we'll pick out the best questions from you, and you will interview one of Hollywood's biggest stars, whose new movie just looks awesome. It genuinely looks awesome.
It does look great, yes.
It's got sort of a Raging Bull-esque kind of a quality to it. The other thing quickly on Ohio State, you and I were both talking about how good they look like they figure to be this year, and the schedule being as comparatively easy as it appears. Ohio State, according to Westgate Las Vegas Superbook manager Ed Salmons, is going to be a double-digit favorite in every game they play this year, including the Big Ten championship game. Their toughest conference game, as you said, Mike, is going to be at home against Michigan State. But Ed is saying, the number there should be about as high as Ohio State minus 16.
Wow.
You won't see a single-digit number on them until the playoffs start. He says that at this point he has Ohio State. The odds of Ohio State going undefeated are 10-1. Now, could we throw him a quick note there if you guys just talk to him? Is there any other school that has better odds, shorter odds than that to go unbeaten? Is that a no? Brooks, you shaking your head no.
I gotta believe
that's the favorite. Oh, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Is there another school? I mean,
I would say how close. My question would be how close is the next school to the odds of them going undefeated?
You know, I got to sit down. I've got the magazines. I have a flight today. This is my kids' visiting weekend at camp, so I'm very excited going up to Maine to see the kids. And I'm flying up, so I've got my magazines ready to go. My college football preview magazines and my NFL preview magazines ready to go. I'll start looking over that. But is there a team in the Big 12 that no team in the SEC is going to have odds like that? No team in the Pac-12 is going to have odds like that. Could there be a team in the Big 12 that has odds like that to go unbeaten? You figure it's got to be a conference where they don't. At the ACC, Florida State's not as. I know Clemson is now the favorite to win there.
Pick there, right.
So we'll see. I think Ohio State probably is the favorite, the prohibitive favorite to make the Final Four.
To me, my question is, how close is the next person, and is it coming from the Big 12? Is it coming from the Pac? The Pac-12 or Big? Know the numbers of these anymore.
Pac-12 is correct,
and the Big 12 is. I would think it might be coming from there because the SEC is so jam-packed.
All right, Mike and Mike, let's bring in our buddy Buster Olney on the Subway Fresh Steak Hotline. We have the MVP play of the week. It's brought to you by Sport Clips. You watch sports, we cut hair. It's perfect. Sport Clips, it's good to be a guy. No question who the MVP in baseball this week is. Right now, Clayton Kershaw on a practically an unprecedented streak. He's the first pitcher in the modern era with 3 consecutive scoreless starts with 10 strikeouts and no walks, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. So as we bring in our buddy Buster Olney, yes, Kershaw brilliant, but the team he faced last night, Buster, also had some numbers that we've never seen before, and I'd love you to share those.
Yeah, he had a perfect game through 6 innings, and it felt like the first time where you're thinking, well, okay, well, this is inevitable, that he's actually going to get there, because when the game started, the Mets cleanup hitter, John Mayberry Jr., had a batting average of 170. The number 5 hitter, Eric Campbell, started the game with a batting average of 179. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, this is only the second time in the live ball era in which a team had its number 4 and number 5 hitter in its starting lineup enter the game with at least 100 at-bats and a batting average under 180. The only other time it happened was actually September 25th, 1975, the Oakland Athletics, the day after they clinched. So they were all hung over and they ran out a spring training lineup. That's the only other time that sort of number 4 and number 5 hitter since 1920 was run out by a team, and it's pathetic. So what is a fan to do? You know, we got Bubba on our board, who's a crazy Met fan. We have Patriot Ray, who sometimes doubles as Mets Ray, and he was at the game last night. Well, I mean, what is a Met fan to do right now when everyone can see these numbers and there doesn't appear to be any help in sight? No, just pull your hair out. I don't know what else to say. There's no apparent change on the horizon. When you talk to other teams and you talk to them about what they're discussing with the Mets, what you get back is they don't have any money. They're not taking on any money. And it's not just a matter of, not taking on a Justin Upton or an Aramis Ramirez. The Pittsburgh Pirates, small market team, started the year with an $85 million payroll. In making that deal for Ramirez yesterday, they took on a little less than $3 million. Well, the Mets apparently aren't going to take on any money, so that even if they were to, look to add complementary players like Alani Chisnall of the Cleveland Indians, who's available and is owed about $900,000 for the rest of this year, there's no indication that they're going to do that type of move either. And I think that's what's been amazing through this last 2.5 months is this offense has just eroded more and more, that there hasn't even been the incremental changes, let alone the adding of a big bat.
Got to be brutal, just brutal for the fans to watch.
So, I mean, listen, this has now become an extraordinary topic. If you listen to any of the talk shows in New York, it's all anybody is talking about, because for several years now they've been building and they've been bad, so their payroll really hasn't been that significant. Now their pitching is so good, Buster, that how does Major League Baseball look at this situation? And look, everyone understands the specter of the Madoff thing that hangs over the entire discussion. How does Major League Baseball look away from this situation now? It's something that cannot be ignored.
Well, the Wilpons have owned this team for a long time. They're in good standing with Major League Baseball. I wish I could give you an answer as to, is there, some way that this is going to change, some dynamic where this team could spend more money. Because I can tell you, when you talk with team presidents around the league, the idea of the New York Mets starting the year with the 21st highest payroll, lower than that of the Rockies, the Brewers, and the Reds, draws laughter. They think it's insane, and they obviously have a knowledge of how much the money the Mets are getting from the Central Fund, from the national television agreements, and they scratch their heads and they don't understand it. And if you guys remember, 4 or 5 years ago, there was so much talk about the Dodgers under the ownership of Frank McCourt and how much better Major League Baseball would be if that market could be exploited. Well, my goodness, they changed ownership there. The team is sold for $2 billion. The Dodgers now are this monster force in baseball, and you wish the Mets could be that, especially now, as you mentioned, with his great pitching staff. If that group of pitchers ever got into October, everyone else would be afraid, because they're that good with that kind of stuff. If they had any kind of offensive support, guys, since June 14th, they've had 3 games when they scored over 5 runs. 3 games scoring more than 5 runs in about 5 weeks.
So quickly, let's go to the other side. Every team has their ceiling this year. We know the Mets, even though they're close, it's only 3 away from the division and the wild card. It's not going anywhere. But you mentioned the Dodgers of where they are now, but they need to close the deal. They need to win the World Series with the money they spent and the power that they have. Is Is a pitcher before the trade deadline the key to this? Do they need another one to win the World Series?
There's no question about it. They're in the marketplace looking for pitching. They actually, earlier this year, they lost Hyunjin Ryu and Brandon McCarthy to season-ending injuries, and they've been filling in the back end behind Greinke and Kershaw. And it's an interesting dynamic. In the last couple of weeks, the starting pitching market has gone from being a great seller's market where maybe Cole Hamels is out there, maybe a couple other guys, to now it's actually a great buyer's market where there's a glut of starting pitchers available. And I'd be shocked if they don't wind up with at least one out of this group and maybe two. Yovani Gallardo of the Rangers having a really good year. Hamels, Johnny Cueto, Jeff Samardzija. The Dodgers are very active right now at a time when there are actually not that many teams looking for starting pitching, so they'll get at least one and probably two.
He is Robert Stanberry, only the third, the Baseball Tonight podcast, and our Major League Baseball insider extraordinaire. Trade deadline a week from today. Thanks, Buster.
Thanks, Buster.
Thanks, guys.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Mike and Mike.
It's time for another edition of Love It.
Oh, this is fun.
Or Shove It with Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
All right, and we bring in the saddest man I know.
Oh, my God. Bubba, can you hit?
Bubba, seriously.
Really? Can you swing a bat?
Brendan Peregrine.
I'm no Hembo, but...
Who is our board operator. He loves very few things in life that I'm aware of. One is his dog, Ted.
Right.
And the other is our New York Mets baseball, Dallas Cowboys football, Duke University basketball. And the New York Mets, they're a tough team to watch right now. I mean, their best hitter is Bobby Bonilla, and we all understand how that's working out. All kidding aside.
We went over that a couple weeks ago.
I know.
Bring that up.
I want to put the jokes away for a minute. Just as a fan, can you express your frustration, if indeed you feel some, and I have to believe you do, with the situation as it currently stands, and what, if anything, you would like to see done about it?
It's very frustrating. I'm actually going to the game tomorrow. Harvey is pitching, so that's nice. I mean, last night, it's kind of a difficult thing with Kershaw pitching. You're not going to expect them to go crazy, but the lineup is just so bad. The thing I would really like to see is Rob Manfred to step up and do something. You know, he already appointed the Wilpons to the financial committee, which is just insane. I don't even know what that means. And they no matter what, like Buster was saying, they got in, they got rid of the Dodgers owner, but for some reason, Selig and Manfred, they all just support the Wilpons, and they just let it happen. They say they're great owners, and, they've got plenty of money. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, my God, you're happy you asked that question. Multiply Bubba by 1 million, and that's what you're getting.
Or 15 million.
Yeah, and Manfred constantly says the Mets are fine, I have faith in the Wilpons, all this stuff, and they've got plenty. Money's not an issue. Well, I mean, Buster laid it out. When John Mayberry is batting cleanup, how is money not an issue?
They couldn't pick up $3 million on Aramis Ramirez. Now, you could say they didn't want to bring in a third baseman because they're going to get David Wright back. But anyway, okay, we digress. Let's get to Bubba's Love It or Shove It. He's got a bunch of sports headlines of the day. We'll decide if we love them or shove them. Bubba, go.
Well, speaking of money, Josh Smith says this year will be tough on his family financially. Love it or shove it.
It's horrible.
This is amazing. Now, while he's only making $1.5 million in salary, he's getting from Detroit $5.4 million. So he will be making this year $6.9 million. He's already made $94 million in his career. He made $16 million last year, and he's telling family members, this year's going to be tough, gang. This year's going to be tough.
Well, I don't know if he's telling them that, but he's telling the world it's going to be tough on his family. And that's... You want to talk about the dictionary definition of what not to say as a professional athlete when you are making $6.9 million this season. Let's even take away the money he's getting from – let's say that didn't exist. If you sign a contract for $1.5 million, look, I understand what he's saying, that he's accustomed to making a lot more money than that. And that a lot of NBA players make a lot more money than that.
There's a way to say it.
But if you don't understand that in the world in which we live, you cannot say publicly, this is going to be a tough year on my family because I'm only making $1.5 million, then you're just kind of missing the point.
Without question. It's a complete shove it.
We shove it heavily.
Shove it.
Bubba, next.
All right, it appears Robert Allenby and his caddy parted ways yesterday in the first round. Love it or shove it?
Well, there's so much to this story. It's apparently this is the fourth time this has happened with Allenby, who was the guy who was involved in that bizarre incident in Hawaii,
right.
where he either was or wasn't kidnapped, depending on whose version of the events that you believe. But in this case, he says that his caddy talked him out of one club into another. It came up short. They got into it on the course. The next thing you know, some dentist from the gallery is carrying his bag for the back nine. The caddy says that Allenby was verbally abusive to him. It's a crazy story.
And if you read what the caddy said, Allenby said to him, you'll agree it was verbally abusive. But the bottom line to me, it's the fourth caddy that's not left Allenby, walked off the course on him. So for this one, Allenby, look in the mirror, my friend, okay? I would say way more on him than anybody else.
Yes, if that happens and it isn't Don Johnson and Kevin Costner in the movie Tin Cup, you've got yourselves a problem. I mean, you never see this happen, and it's happened to him 4 times.
Yeah.
We shove it.
Shove it.
Next.
LaShawn McCoy is hosting a private party in Philadelphia and promoted it with a Bills logo. Love it or shove it?
Yeah, and by the way, the Bills shove it because they asked them to take it down.
Right.
Their logo, so we know they shoved it. It was a private party he was having in Philly. You know, he spent a bunch of years there. I don't know. I don't know if I have a bigger problem with that. I mean, he's with the Bills now. I mean,
but we all know there's trademarks and you can't use it. And he was advertising it was for women only.
A women-only party.
To sign confidentiality agreements and said, I can understand why the Bills wouldn't want to be associated with that.
I can understand that as well, and I don't know about rights to use it or not. But he's not the only one that on their avatar or wherever may have their team's logo.
No,
on
but
it.
the avatar. I mean, they're charging money for this, so they're not making money on your avatar. These guys can't do commercials without league permission.
If it's something where he needed permission and it was wrong, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If it's more just an opinion thing, it's not the greatest looking thing in the world.
Bubba, next.
All right, well, as we were just talking about, Mets fans pretty frustrated. One fan started a GoFundMe page to help the team acquire a hitter. Love it or shove it?
My thought on all these things that the fans do, and they get mad at me every time I say it, if you want to waste your money, go ahead. I mean, because that's all it is. You know, when you're putting up these billboards to fire this guy or sending in money to do that is not going to happen. You know, none of this is going to get you. I don't know what will happen to any money of anybody.
I can tell you what happens. I don't know what happens to the money. The reason you do it is to try and apply public pressure to the people who are not making decisions you think they should be making. That's the way the fans have a voice. You put up billboards.
I couldn't disagree more.
Tell me why.
You know when this goes on and you keep complaining, you know what your voice is?
What?
Don't show. That's your voice. A GoFundMe
But now you're punishing yourself by not going, and you're not enjoying. You're not. This is something you enjoy.
That's fine. Oh, you think the Mets fans are enjoying it right now?
In theory, you should enjoy the sport. You enjoy being a fan, and you want to support the team and help.
A GoFundMe page will do nothing. Will mean nothing. Will say nothing.
Except that it will embarrass. It will do what it is designed to do.
No
one thinks they're going to use the GoFundMe money to go out and buy a hitter.
It's not doing a thing. If you really think that has an effect, you're nuts.
I think if the Wilpons aren't already embarrassed, then I don't think this is going to, they're never going to sell the team. It's just ridiculous.
They're a laughing stock already. All of a sudden, a GoFundMe page is going to, oh my God! Now the GoFundMe page, we better go spend some money. Come on.
It is a further way.
I think the best thing would be if they raise the money and the Wilpons actually take it. Like, okay, we'll take that money, thanks.
The bottom line of it is this, that fans have very limited ways of having their voices heard. And I understand saying, well, the easiest way is just stay away from the ballpark. Don't watch the games on TV. Don't go. But now you're depriving yourself.
Waste of your money. Try and do it in a way that doesn't waste your money. I would say that.
It's $315 among who knows how many people. It's not like there's $500,000 in there.
If it's $1 out of your pocket, you've wasted.
I'll be at the game tomorrow. Go Mets.
I will say this. When it comes to love it or shove it, I love Bubba and shove you. We'll be right back.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Let's bring in Joey Galloway, our college football analyst, and, of course, a star at Ohio State in his day on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Good morning, Joey.
Good morning, guys.
Pleasure. Let's talk a little bit about this first and foremost. What do you think of the decision, assuming this is a done deal, and Urban Meyer seems to be saying slow down just a little bit here, but project first off your thoughts on the significance to the team, and then your thoughts on how well that transition may go for Braxton Miller.
I think the transition will go well, and I think it's a better transition for Braxton Miller than it is for Ohio State. Ohio State is they're stacked at a lot of positions, and they're also stacked at receiver when you look at what they have, especially in that slot position with Jalen Marshall, who came on last season. Running back Curtis Samuel made a move in the spring out to the H-back. Dontre Wilson will be coming back off of an ankle-foot injury. So they're pretty stacked at that position. I think this move is great for Braxton Miller and what he has beyond his playing time at Ohio State. Ohio State was explosive at a lot of positions. Now they just add another athlete out there. I don't know that it changes what Ohio State will be on offense, because they'll be great in all areas anyhow. But it's going to be great for Braxton Miller moving forward.
Remember, Braxton Miller's had 2 shoulder surgeries, so the lot going into the equation from that, when he could throw again, and then his next year prospects, but certainly doesn't seem to hurt that quarterback position there at Ohio State. We'll get to that. Talk about, Joey, you as a wide receiver. Here's a quarterback wanting to go to wide receiver. We've seen it before from others, Julian Edelman,
Antoine
Randall. Now, Josh Cribbs was more a special teams punt returner.
Josh Smith to a degree.
But we've seen this happen. So while he's a great athlete and he may have success on the college level, how difficult is this transition he is trying to make, not so much for this year with Ohio State, but then to try and make it in the NFL?
Well, it is, and that's what I say. It's great for him that he's making it now. And more difficult when you get to that next level. And my old receiver coach, Richard Mann, used to say, you won't find out how good a guy is until it gets noisy. And that means when you go across the middle and helmets start cracking and you got to look back and catch a ball and guys are coming, that's when you'll find out how well someone can move to the receiver position. So we may not find this out up until he gets into a couple games and has to then catch some passes when guys are coming at him live. I can't imagine there'd be a whole lot of hitting going on in camp when they in these month or so before the season starts. But as far as from an athletic standpoint, I mean, he's big and can run. We've seen him in open field. When the ball is in his hands, he's as good as anyone in the country. So that part of the equation he'll be terrific at. Now you just have to get the other part, the physical part. And in this offense, you have to go block, which I'm quite sure he hasn't done much of, and you have to go across the middle and catch the ball occasionally.
Mike, Joey Galloway is with us again. 3 great quarterbacks, perhaps that number being whittled down, and we'll see. And quickly, I said Josh Smith.
And Brad Smith.
Had basketball on the mind for a moment there. Obviously, Brad Smith is who I was talking about. Was a terrific special teams player, among other things, with the Jets and other teams. The other very interesting thing that happened at Ohio State yesterday happened with Cardale Jones, who to me is a fascinating person. I mean, he's the kid who, when he first got there, tweeted about how he didn't come here to play school, and we've talked to Urban Meyer about the enormous personal growth that he has seen in Cardale Jones. He got thrust into an almost impossible situation last year, where the first game he ever started was the Big Ten championship game, and all he did was run the table and win the title. And he's been very active on social media. We saw him at the ESPYs tweeting at Ronda Rousey and all that kind of stuff. And now yesterday he tweeted something about the discrepancy, if you will, between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. And someone tweeted back at him, hey, worry about us fans, getting us fans into the championship. Stay out of this blank. And he responded strongly, and in my opinion, extraordinarily well. And I saw a lot of mixed thoughts on this throughout social media yesterday. Joey, just what are your thoughts, and in particular about a young man, a college athlete, willing to speak his mind on a subject like this, and whether or not that is something that is inviting more trouble than it may be worth, or do you support a young man speaking his mind in a circumstance like this?
I support a young man speaking his mind on anything that he feels strongly about, as long as he does it the right way. Now, as far as the trouble that comes from that, and I'm sure you guys know this as well as anybody, you can't say hello on Twitter without somebody coming back with something negative. That's that's a place for people that can go and be idiots, and they don't have to attach your name so much. But as far as Cardale Jones is concerned in this equation, if he feels strongly enough about that, then I do believe that he should be willing to say so. And if you do say so, realize that no matter what it is you say, someone is going to come back with something negative. And then it just comes down to how bored you are if you feel like responding. You know what I mean? And I do that sometimes after calling a game, and you know how many people are going to be negative. I'll sit in the airport, have nothing else to do, and I start responding to people and get into these arguments. But at the same time, I realize, look, I'm just wasting time arguing with an idiot, and they're going to be there. So if he decides to respond, just realize, you're responding to somebody that could just be there just for the argument's sake.
And what I would like to say is, if you're one of the people I saw saying, well, these guys need to just keep their mouths shut and play, you know what? College is supposed to be a time of social and intellectual awakening. And that's not just for non-student athletes. That's for all students. If this is something he feels strongly about and passionately about, that's what it's about. I mean, on college campuses across the country, that's what we see. And just because you're a football player does not mean that you lose the right to do that. That's one of the best parts of college, is to have that awakening, if you will, for whatever the subject matter might be that is significant to you. And yes, if you're going to allow yourself to get shouted down by the crowd, then you're going to allow that in other circumstances where it shouldn't be. And I do not like the idea that people are telling football players, because they quote-unquote represent the university, they should keep their opinions to themselves. I think that's a stupid perspective to take. Do you agree with that?
You just went a little too educated on me right there with the awakening part of college, which I appreciate. And as I've watched you work, I always thought to myself, well, there's an intelligent guy right there talking, and you just went a little further than what I was saying. And in my mind, look, if you got a feeling and you want to say so, as long as it's something, as long as you're not disrespecting somebody, hey, go for it. But I like what you said, too. I agree with you on the awakening part of that when you're in college.
Yeah, Joey, I think you and I are more like, I don't know if there's as much awakening as we think in college.
But there is. I mean, of course there is.
I'm thinking about playing football, and hey, if you got some extra time, throw a tweet or two out there while you're at it. You went a bit above that, and I appreciate that. But hey, that's Northwestern education.
Fair enough. But I mean, the history in college of players, not generally not football players, but of students taking stands on various issues and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you write for the school newspaper, you can write whatever you want in there. And so a football player being told to shut up because he's a football player, I think is...
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for
Joey,
sure. I agree.
We appreciate your time, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
The best of Mike and Mike.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Mike and Mike.
The stars include Rachel McAdams and 50 Cent. And our next guest in our studio, who says the clip that we're watching was sped up.
Boy, if
I
you
don't
can
know
throw
if that
punches that fast,
that was way too fast. That trailer is supposed to be 30 seconds. It was 15 seconds.
We shouldn't assume you could throw punches that fast?
I think that's faster than any professional fighter I've ever seen in my life.
Jake Gyllenhaal is in our studio. It's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming. The movie opens coast to coast today. It's called Southpaw. And I want to start immediately with this. I've read a lot about all the training you did for the role, not just to get yourself in the physical shape that you got in, but to look like you knew how to fight. And Mike was a football player.
Yeah.
And when he goes to a football movie, if it doesn't look authentic, it ruins it for him. My dad was a lawyer. When I was a kid, if we went to a courtroom drama, we went to see The Verdict with Paul Newman. And my dad walked out.
Seriously?
Yes. This is so unrealistic, Michael. I can't watch this.
Why would Paul Newman be in a court? Is that what you're saying?
So take us back to how you went about making sure you looked like, not just your body, but that you looked like a fighter.
Well, I mean, I didn't really know how to box when I started the movie, or preparing for the movie, so I spent 5 months learning how to box, twice a day. I was pretty much terrified because Antoine Fuqua told me, who directed the movie, told me he was going to shoot it like an HBO Showtime fight, and we weren't going to cut, and I wasn't allowed to have a double. So he's like, you're going to actually have to fight. We'll have to do choreography. We're going to ring the bell. We're going to come in. We're going to do the corner stuff. And then you're going to come back out. And we're going to nonstop shoot. So I was pretty much like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I have to learn. So I just trained twice a day. Figured if I trained twice a day, it'd make 5 months, 10 months. And I just learned how to box.
Was there more trepidation to actually the director saying you're going to get hit?
or you want to look authentic as a boxer?
Yeah, to me, there's no I mean, I do what I do because I want to learn from people who actually do it. I mean, that's the cool thing about my job is I can actually learn a skill, and I wanted to learn how to box also. So it wasn't, I don't think I ever thought, like, oh, I'm afraid to get hit. I just thought, like, I'm afraid to look like an idiot, like you said. If I didn't want your dad to walk out, if I was playing a lawyer. No, but I'm serious. I mean, that's what I love about my job, the details, the little details. It's like every single detail makes something feel real and makes it fun to watch because we live in a world where there's, like, CGI. So when you see a performance, in my opinion, nowadays, you want to feel those details. Like, that makes a movie.
So if Floyd Mayweather is watching that movie, he's not walking out, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's walking out of a lot of other things, but I don't know about that.
Well, what did you learn about fighting, about fighters from doing this, from your preparation?
Well, at first I felt like, I think throwing a punch, I felt like initially I thought it was all like brute strength and aggression. And over time I started to learn there's a real grace to it and where a real punch comes from. It took me forever to sort of loosen up my shoulders and just get into throwing from my core and from my legs and actually trying to look like a boxer that way. And throwing my jab, it was just like, my God. But I think the grace of the sport, and I also think really the sensitivity it takes to read your opponent, you know, be able to keep your mind in the game and read your opponent was amazing to me to learn.
And in reading about the training for this, I thought that interesting what you said about the brute strength, because didn't in the beginning you listen to like real, like loud, aggressive music,
yeah,
and that to make you more aggressive, and you thought, I'm just dying here, right?
Yeah, I would just go so hard, and I'd die after like 4 or 5 minutes, and then I watched this training video of Miguel Cotto, and I was like, he was hitting the heavy bags like salsa and merengue, and I was like, I'm gonna try that out. I shouldn't be dancing salsa or merengue, but I tried that. I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's how I should go, you know. And actually, after a while, it was more meditative than it was just pure like I'm gonna get out aggression. So every time anyone says to me, "Oh, I'm gonna train boxing, I want to get out some aggression, I want to punch something," I'm like, I don't think that's the right focus. That's not the way to start.
So in this, taking the real punches, whether it's to the face or more to the body, I've always thought this because I think people naturally assume they'd rather not get hit in the face and in the body.
Yeah.
My assumption is I wouldn't want to throw up in the mat, and if I get hit in the gut, I'm going down.
Yes.
Is it worse with the body than the face?
Absolutely. In my opinion, yeah. I mean, all knockouts seem to be preceded by a body shot. I mean, you only get access to the head in that way, really, you know, with a body shot. And every time I got hit with a body shot, and we usually body sparred. I don't like that.
I'll say this, Mike. In your particular case, you're probably right. If your face looks like his or mine, it may be you're better off not getting hit in the face.
You're great.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely. Jake and I separated at
We
birth.
could be brothers, man.
Yeah.
Really good.
I mean, that's what I keep saying. No one seems to agree with me.
Not a feather in your cap, Jake. Really, that is like as good as your life could get.
Like the 60 women who are standing in the studio right now are not usually here. Mike and Jake Gyllenhaal. All right, let's talk about Eminem, because there were a lot of huge fans of his, both in this room and all over the place.
Absolutely.
He did the music for this, and I saw you guys like surprised a movie theater in Detroit and things like that. What's it like? Because he's sort of an unknowable guy, at least from the outside. Like, what was that like?
Well, I hadn't met him until that moment, until I met him right before we went in to introduce the movie to that audience in Detroit.
So when he did the music for the movie, you guys didn't do that together?
We didn't do it together, but when I heard he loved the movie and that he wanted to write music for it, I just felt like I mean, I didn't know if I'd ever meet him, but I was so psyched about that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, have been for years. His music was motivating for me when I was training and throughout the movie, so that was pretty amazing. But, yeah, when I met him, I mean, truly, I mean, he lives a very private life, and everybody knows that, but he's a gentleman. I mean, he was nice to everybody. I mean, I came in with a couple people, and he was like, "Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming to Detroit." You know, I mean, I'm surprised by that, particularly with his music. I mean, he could do whatever and be whatever he wants, you know, and people I think would probably still love him. And he was just a true gentleman, you know, and that's kind of amazing. And then we hung out throughout the week this week, and he's just a good guy.
And which Greeny wants us because Greeny thinks he's a rapper at times,
No,
right?
not really.
Yeah,
I mean,
really? You spit some rhymes?
No, he does.
I could have. I mean, you know, I could rock a rhyme that's right on time, but it's tricky. That's
wow!
I told you. Here he goes right into
busting out old school. Go ahead.
It's my brother, man.
Yeah, they were gonna.
It's when we were growing up. That's the way it was.
Yeah, we're really bonding. I may have to leave for the next.
Maggie's our sister. I got the whole thing working.
When you're at the point now where obviously you can pick and choose what role you want. So what was it about this movie, Southpaw, that said, "Yeah, I got to do this"?
It was a story between a father and a daughter, to be honest. I mean, to me, I was like, you know, I read the script of the movie, and I just, you know, a guy fighting for his family, protecting his family in any way he can, no matter what, and also his relationship with his daughter, learning how to be a dad. that to me just moved me so much. And then the fact that he got to express that in the ring, and I got to learn how to box and get to learn about the sport of boxing was just like a cherry, you know. I mean, I was that, but the father-daughter relationship was the reason why I did the movie.
Jake Gyllenhaal is here. The movie is called Southpaw. It is open as we speak across the country. The reviews have been sensational. The music is by Eminem. It looks fabulous, and I'm definitely going to go see it this weekend. A couple of other notes, and we took Twitter questions for you, so we're going to let our audience interview you coming up in just a couple of minutes here. But the one note, as we were doing a little research on you, that everyone on our staff, bear in mind that we're a sports show here, immediately gravitated to was that your parents did not allow you to be in the movie The Mighty Ducks.
Because mainly our crew here is of the age of when, you know.
Oh, really? Their favorite movie? Reason why they work at ESPN?
They love The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
What is that story, and have you gotten past it?
The answer to the latter part of that question is no.
No.
Never. How can you? This was before there was a professional hockey team named after that, you know. That was the movie that defined everything for the sport, to be honest, you know, right? You know, I could have learned, I could be playing hockey now. I could have learned how to play hockey, and I would have been totally into that. I mean, I will never forgive my parents for that. You know, now it's my choice. That's why I got to box. But if there's a Mighty Ducks and I can be Emilio Estevez's part in one of the next ones, you know I'm in.
You could have been part of the Flying V, and
wow.
It turns out you weren't.
Really, man, just rubbing it in.
Before we get to some of the Twitter questions, go through a little bit of your routine, of your regimen that you did to get ready for this, and because your body is unbelievable. Ridiculous the shape you got.
Well, man, I mean, it took a while. I mean, I really didn't know. I mean, I couldn't even train. I couldn't even hit a heavy bag. I couldn't hit a speed bag. I didn't know how to hit the mitts. I had no knowledge of any combination before I started. So it took a while to like even start to learn those techniques to even try and get in shape. You know, so I just worked for months on like my jab and footwork, which I hated. You know, and then after a while we do conditioning work. You know, and I would do sprints and we would run. I would do road. By the end, I was doing like 8 miles in the morning running, and then I go like 2 hours in the morning after the run, and I do mitt work and heavy bag and speed bag and jump rope, and you know, I mean that's basically it there. And then I take a break, and the second half of the day would be a lot of technique. We do choreography towards the end because there's a lot of choreography in the fight sequences. So that was based on a lot of the mitt work we were doing, and I started learning, you know, defensive moves because my character moves from a really aggressive, you know, fighter to a more defensive fighter. And so I started to learn the shell up, and that was interesting because Roy Jones Jr. came in to announce with Jim Lampley when we were doing it, and he said something like, while he watched me do the fight where I was shelling up, he's like, I have never seen a white boy do that before. He was like, that's like watching a man like pole dance or something like that. It was like, and it's not in the movie, but.
But that's got to be hard. I mean, to box in front of Roy Jones Jr., no matter how much you've practiced, no matter how much you've worked, you might know that the movie is going to be seen by millions and millions of people. I would think if Roy Jones is sitting in the room, that would be hard to do.
I got hit so much those 2 days that they were announcing, and I hit people so much more than I ever had because we were all so jacked up they were there, and we didn't want to pretend like we were just like, you know, choreographed fighting. So people got hit, and I got hit a lot. And we'd be like, oh, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like over and over again. Yeah, real blood that day.
And, of course, you got the abs more by diet than by working out, right? Which just ruins it for me.
I have to say, a lot of it is just like a running. That was a big part.
Running and eating, right?
Yeah, you've lost Golic on both of those.
Everyone asked me that, how do you get in shape? I'm like, I exercised.
Yeah.
And that right there, you've lost Golic.
I know, but no, how'd you do it? I'm like, I exercised.
If only you could do it with cake, Golic would look exactly like you.
Someday that's going to be a good product.
The movie Southpaw is open today, coast to coast. Go see it. We'll be back in just a moment with your questions. Hashtag Ask Jake. We'll Twitter view Jake Gyllenhaal in our studio right after this. Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
All right, movie star Jake Gyllenhaal is in our studio. I'd like to remind everyone of ESPN's guest policy. Autographs and photographs with our guest athletes and celebrities are strictly prohibited. That's being violated in every conceivable way.
By the way, my son Mike is on his way.
And my wife Stacey's in traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. We took a bunch of Twitter questions, but just I know you grew up in L.A.
Yeah.
Are you a Dodger fan?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Kershaw? I mean, you can't be any hotter than that guy is right now.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I grew up with Hershiser, you know what I mean? So
right.
Like as a kid. Amazing.
All right, we've got through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We use the hashtag #AskJake, and we just have a variety of questions for you, some of which are on the subject of movies, some of which are not. Again, the movie which is released today called Southpaw, the boxing movie, looks phenomenal. So here's a good one from Larry D. What was the most fun you ever had making a movie, and who was the most interesting person you worked with?
Oh, man. You kidding me? I'm going to get a lot of people angry.
Yeah, you are.
You kidding me? I actually had a lot of fun making this movie, Jarhead, that I made. That was a lot of fun to make. I think I walked in not knowing what I was going to get into, and I made some of the best friendships I've ever made. Another movie I made called End of Watch, that was a lot of fun, too, about 2 police officers. That was a lot of fun, too.
Without using a name, I just speak here because we talk all the time about athletes. Golick will always say you got a bunch of guys in the locker room, and not everyone will get along.
Yeah.
Now, if you're making a movie with somebody, it's a pretty intense experience.
Yeah.
If you have the experience where you don't get along, does it make it hard to do? Can you get through that anyway if you don't make friends with people?
Sometimes. I mean, you can kind of channel that, and you can channel that energy sometimes, and particularly if you all have the same goal, which is to make a great film. You know, I think also, like, it's the same probably being on a team. You want to win, so you're not stupid enough to lose the game because you don't necessarily get along. But I think, you know, for instance, like when I did this movie, End of Watch, I worked with Michael Pena, who was basically my partner in that movie. And we first met, we were like, I don't know about you, you know. And then over time, as we got to know each other, you know, we became really good friends. So, I mean, it just depends, you know. I respect him so much, and I did before I met him. But, you know, sometimes you're, like, forced to be in a space where you're supposed to be friends or whatever it is. The guy who I fight, who's the bad guy in this movie in Southpaw, you know, he's great. We got along so well, and we're supposed to hate each other. So, I mean, it works either way.
You know what it's called, Greenie? They act.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
It works out really well.
By the way.
This one from Jared, I'll kind of phrase it the way I would put it along with what he's asking, but I say this all the time, is actors and entertainers would love to be athletes, and athletes, I know I always wanted to be an actor and entertainer.
Yeah.
So if you could be an athlete, which sport would it be, and what position would you want to be a star at?
Oh, man. I'd love to be a professional basketball player. That'd be dope. Yeah. Point guard. You know?
Yeah. That would probably have to be the position, right?
That would have to be the position.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
It's a lot smarter than being, you know, a fighter, obviously, with all that, you know, to get punched in the face.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think it would be fun to be a fighter at times, though I do think the risks are definitely a little bit higher for your mental and physical health.
I did a tiny little bit of boxing just as a workout.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was it's all great fun until someone is throwing punches back. So true. That's so true. The rest of it is fantastic. Keith, we have these debates here all the time, and maybe the movie Southpaw will enter this debate now. What's your favorite sports movie?
Oh, man. Well, there are a couple of them. It's not really a sports movie, but it's one of my favorite movies is Jerry Maguire. I love that movie. I mean, I guess you could consider it a sports movie, but there's no like, Rudy. I like Rudy. That's a good one.
One of my school, huh? Okay.
And
Notre Dame.
That's a good one. I do have to say I love the first Rocky. I do love I
don't know how people can ever say they don't.
I know. I
think that was the first movie I went to where actually everybody in the theater was up and cheering.
Well, Rocky 4 is pretty great too.
I like 3. I'm a fan of 3. I like the Mr. T character.
You like 3?
I love 3.
That's 3 one of the best.
Clubber Lang. Yes.
Wait,
not my favorite. Rocky 1 is the best
of all of them.
No, I
man.
disagree.
What do you mean? Four is great. Dolph Lundgren.
I will take Mr. I will take
my line from
Mr. T. as a villain over Dolph Lundgren.
Oh yeah,
are you kidding me?
He says T's performance is that of what?
Mr. T over Apollo Creed?
Yeah.
No, not over Apollo Creed, but over Dolph Lundgren.
Okay, all right.
Here's what I will say.
You said 3 was your favorite.
3 after 1. I'll say this. And listen, I mean, I
don't talk about my brother that way, man.
The 2 greatest American performances ever were Olivier's Hamlet and T's Lang. I think those 2 stand alone.
Mr. T, he's amazing. Don't get me wrong.
This from Thea. What was more not getting ready to box, but getting your body in the shape it was in?
Yeah.
Which was more difficult, losing the weight for Nightcrawler, or gaining the weight and getting into this shape for Southpaw?
Oh, I mean, I love to eat, so I could pretty much eat whatever I want when I did this movie. With Nightcrawler, was like no eating at all, really. So I don't like that. So I would say it was. I don't like to use the word difficult when having to do with making movies, But if I were to use the word to compare, I'd probably say nice.
Listen, if you're putting in the line anywhere, there's no eating, then difficult comes into play.
Well, give us a sense. What did you, when you say no eating, like what did you eat?
Man, I tried so many different things. Like, I basically just ran. I started to run. I run like 15 miles a day. I would run to set from where I was living, and we were shooting in Los Angeles. I would eat like kale, which ends up not being so good to only eat for many reasons. And then I would eat, like, I tried celery for a day. It was not a lot of things, but basically just very little of anything.
Jake Gyllenhaal is here. Rushmore tweets at us, do you ever have nightmares about the rabbit costume from Donnie Darko?
Yeah, I do. But I made that movie to give you nightmares. More than me.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. How about so many of the superhero movies out now? If you could be one, which one would you like to be?
Oh, man. Batman is, I mean, come on. Are you kidding me?
Okay, this is a long-standing debate on the show without prejudicing the jury. In your opinion, is Batman a superhero?
No, not really.
Oh,
not
yes,
really.
he is. Of course he is.
No, he's not, dude.
No, he's not.
Dude.
Jake!
Thank you.
Bro.
Was he in Super Friends?
No, of course he's like a superhero.
He wasn't.
But no, man. He's not.
He wasn't Ross.
What
he
are you
was a
talking
super
about? Why are
friend.
you bringing Batman into Friends? That's just weird.
Because he was a super friend, right? There was the super
okay,
friends.
all right, okay.
He was on Super Friends as opposed to Friends.
No. Batman. Look, man, Batman is a dude. He's a
I love him. He's not only is he a superhero, he's the best of the superheroes.
What do you mean, man? He doesn't fly. He doesn't not really. He just has a cape.
That's what makes him so great.
Beats the crap out of people.
The only reason he's in the Super Friends, as I said, Jake, is they need someone to have been captured so the other Super Friends, the real superheroes, can free him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't like getting. Listen, and we were getting along so well here. Two more quickly, Brian. Who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Man.
You mentioned Hershiser.
Yeah, I mean Jordan. Yeah, and I do remember Tyson. I mean, though I didn't really know a lot about boxing when I was a kid. I mean, you can't breathe without being a Tyson fan.
And then the last one here. This is from Jets Fan Island. If you were casting a sidekick in your next movie, would you pick Golic or me?
That's the last question.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what you're making me
we leave the hardest hitting stuff.
Are you kidding me?
If you think about this, you just said he's like your brother because you look a little bit alike. Why would you want someone
I'll go
like
with
that?
you, man. I'll go with you.
Yeah, why would you want someone that kind of looks
You're
like
right.
you? You'd rather go with someone different.
I'll be a politician here, and I'll cover all sides.
There you go.
There you go.
First Batman, and now this.
Look, dude, we're blood. So no matter what, we always got to stick together.
That's true.
I am so happy of your answer with that. And you don't know what a long-running feud this has been on this show.
I like that you consider me the expert so that I've decided it. But that's fine. I'll take it.
Let's put it this way. Of the three of us, the only one who has any chance to ever play Batman in a movie is you. So
I don't know,
see what
man.
happens.
I don't know.
Listen, if people want to call my agent, I'm more than available to have that conversation. One year we dressed up as Batman and Robin. I was Robin.
I'm trying to think if there have been more Batmans or Bonds.
Oh, definitely Bonds, I think.
I think Batman's going to give it a run, though, the way they're going.
But that is the cool thing about those two characters. Neither of them are superheroes.
That's right.
That's really bothersome.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing it up
Anyway,
again.
despite that, I'm seeing the movie Sunday. It looks fantastic. It is called Southpaw. It is open coast to coast right now, and the star is our friend Jake Gyllenhaal. Say hello to Maggie for us.
Will do.
Brother-in-law Peter, everybody else. Pleasure to have you. Really great to have you here. Thanks for coming by, man. We're big fans.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.